So there's 5 different components to talk about to understand what factors into your final grade. Levels, villains, bosses, and myths. How does that all work? Well, levels are basically everything that you're doing is going to earn you these experience points. Every time that you earn 150 experience points, you level up. That means that this is kind of like a process grade or a grade that you're earning for while you're learning. It's a grade that teachers call formative assessments, right? So I'm trying to reward you for the hard work you're doing towards your learning. Now, the way this works is there is a document called course plan. Now, the course plan determines the pace that you should do and what you should do. And we'll talk more about the course plan in a while. It's kind of like a road full of obstacles that are set for you. But based on what you should do and how fast you should do, the course decides how many levels you should earn in a given week. Now, let's say, for example, this week we had 4 different assignments. And the first assignment was worth 50 points. And then the next assignment is worth 20 points. And the next assignment is worth 30 points. And the next assignment is worth another 50 points. By the end you finish all of that, you should have 1 level. So after all of that is due, the class will have then leveled up. Once the class levels up, a level is now required of you in the grade book. And if you want to do well, you must have also turned in all that work to level up as well. So if you've done all the work, great. You have that level and you're in good shape. You have 100 in the class. Now, next week goes by, the same process repeats itself. And another level maybe is required out of you. But maybe this week you slacked off, or you missed a day, or you were sick, and you didn't turn in all the work you should have turned in. And so maybe you didn't complete the level yet. Until you actually complete 150 points worth of work, you are not going to earn the level. You get an F on the grade book. Now, the cool thing about it, though, is that as soon as you do the work, even if it is after it was due, you actually get that level. And even if you do different work or another alternative work, as long as it's points, no matter where the points come from, it can fill the bucket back up for you and make you level up. Now, of course, by then, the class may have already leveled up again. And so you are constantly chasing and trying to keep up with what the class is requiring of you. Levels aren't specific assignments. They're a pool of 150 points that you have to earn in order to complete a level. This means that kids can be working on different things at different paces, even different topics, and to earn their levels, right? So it's not about what you're doing, but it's specifically, but it's just about how much you're doing, how well you're doing on it, and how fast you're doing it, right? Now, what you don't want it to happen is something like this. Time goes by in the classroom, go through the semester, and maybe 8 levels total are now required out of you. But because you've been slacking or you were sick for a very long time, maybe you don't have all these levels earned. And so the grade book is full of these Fs. Now, the levels are designed to help your grade, not to hurt your grade. And so what I actually do is instead of giving you zeros for all the levels you're missing, I will actually give you half credit for the first 3 levels you're missing. That's right. The first 3 levels missing are earned half credit. The next set of levels you're missing, or the next set of 3 that you're missing, you earn a third of the credit. So they will still be kind of filled even though it's not full yet. Now I want to clarify that I will only give you the full level once the entire level is earned. But you can get partial levels for every level you're missing. The first 3 will give you half. The next 3 that you're missing, you're getting a third. The next third set of levels you're missing, you get a quarter of the level filled in. But if you're missing 10 or more levels, at that point, you are really slacking. You're getting a 0 for any of those missing levels. Now, that means that it takes a lot to fail based on levels. Because even if you are super behind, you actually wouldn't have an F in this scenario. But the cool thing, like I said, is if you start working hard now and you turn in a lot of work and you work super hard, do extra work, really good work, and you start working faster, it is possible for you to level up and catch the class. In fact, what you want to do is have extra levels. You want to actually have more levels than the class is asking out of you, and we'll talk about why right now. Building extra levels builds yourself a shield against the villains. Villains and bosses are summative assessments, is what we call in teaching. These are not necessarily grades that you earn in the process of learning, but product grades. Grades that show how much you have learned. Proof that you are mastering the topic. Quizzes, essays, projects that are creative in shape and cannot be actually cheated from are literally there to test what you know about the topic. A villain could be a simple quiz that you do in 20 minutes, and it's worth an entire level, that the same as an entire level, which may have taken you a whole week to gain. So they are big deal assignments. Sometimes villains are worth 3 levels. Now, if you do bad on a villain, that's permanent. Unlike the levels that you can actually refill as soon as you complete the work, that bad grade will stay there forever. And the only way to do better is improve it the next times around and dilute the bad grade with a lot of good grades, like any other regular class grade would usually be. So villains are really testing you for achievement, right? Now, the cool thing is that you only have to face the villain when you feel ready for them. So you actually wait, you study until you're ready to face them, and then you take them. That's the good thing about the villain. So performance tasks, labs, lab reports, tests can be things that you do at your own pace. But once you actually have to do it according to course plan, when you get to the point that you have to do it, that's the next thing you have to do it in order to continue with the course plan. Now, the really cool thing about the villain is that if you do bad and you want to dilute that grade even further, you can choose to do additional villains. Extra quizzes, retakes the quizzes, extra labs to actually dilute the bad grade with some extra villains as well. Now, if you have extra levels, you can also help yourself undo a bad grade by diluting the value of that. So that's one of the reasons you want to have extra levels, because then you don't have to face extra villains to dilute a bad grade. So that's the first reason why you want to have extra levels. The other thing that's a part of the class component is this idea of bosses. Now, bosses are big assessments, final performance tasks, projects, or tests, finals. Now, the bosses are usually going to be worth 80% of all of the other stuff that you've done that's required. So in this example here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 levels in levels plus 3 levels in villains. And usually these will be kind of similar. You have just as many villain levels as you have experience point levels. But in this example, there's a total of 11 required buckets. That means the test will probably be something like 8 or 9. So this test by itself, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The test will be worth visually, you can see visually that the test is worth a lot. If all you've done is the required stuff, this 80% comes out to about 45% of your total grade. So it's a huge, huge grade. It's a big deal. But if you've faced extra villains and faced extra levels, this doesn't factor in on how much the boss is worth for you, which means if I'm looking at the purple instead of the green, the boss is not that big, right? So think of it as building for yourself your own curve. The more levels and the more villains you face, the less the boss affects your final grade. So it's kind of like in a role-playing game. The more you level up, the more powerful you become, the less you're worried about the boss that you have to face at the end. Now, the other cool thing is this idea of quests. Quests are extra credit projects that you can do. And when you do a quest, they will fill up to half of the boss for you. So that means when you have to face the boss, you already have half your grade guaranteed, making the boss worth even less. And I'm even less worried about it. So that's another way that you can decide what you do to earn a good grade. Now, if you do the boss and do badly on it, it doesn't matter. Even if you get half credit on that boss, you probably still have enough gain that that's not going to hurt your grade too much, right? But typically, kids that work really hard and gain a lot of extra levels, face extra villains and do really well on the villains, and do the quest to fill the level up, are usually ready for the bosses and usually have no problem getting a good grade. Another cool thing about the bosses, though, is that if you pass the boss, and I kind of wrote it here, but it got erased. If you pass the boss, all the levels that you are missing default to 75%. 70%. That means that when you pass the boss with 75% or above, all of the levels that you're missing will actually default. So if you're in a situation like this, then you're missing a lot of levels, right? The boss is worth, say, 8 levels, right? Up here. So that means that 8 levels worth of levels will be filled in for you as 75%, right? So you can fill up to 8 levels, which is what the boss was worth, at a 70%, which also helps build a better grade for you, right? So that's kind of how that works. But then, on top of all of that, there's also the MIFs. MIFs are a bonus that you can earn that can upgrade your grade up to 10%. So if everything is said and done on this stuff, I get an 80, I could upgrade my grade up to a 90 by doing these things. Throughout the semester, you can grab participation points for which you will get Legos. Ever so often, you can cash in those Legos, and if you build something cool and tell me a story about it, you can get even extra when you're cashing in. You also can get points for pace. The closer you are to the pace set by the course plan, the more bonus on pace you get. You also get a bonus if you are making good gains. That means that if every test you take, you do better than the test you did before, or better than the baseline examination, you will also help build this gain bonus. Extra credit, competitive extra credit. The more extra credit you do compared to the extra credit everybody else does, the more bonus you get. Portfolio, keeping an organized portfolio of all your work and a log that shows how this work shows the mastery of scientific skills also gives you a bonus. You can also get a bonus for your class rank, overall rank in all the classes of that subject, the grade, your rank within your class period, the rank of your clan or group within the game, so the average rank of your group members, and the grade of your period. So if your period is better than other periods, you also get a bonus. So basically, we work hard to make sure we get as much of this as possible, which helps build up to a 10% upgrade. Oh, I forgot. That's one more over here. Right at the bottom, attendance. Attendance also matters. And behavior. So if you have good behavior and good attendance, you can also get bonuses that build up your MIF. Right? So all of these things work together to build up to this 10%. So that's the basics of how the grade works. But there's a couple more things I want to talk about, and I'll see you in the next video for that.